This is a reading of the Inlay Booklet of In the Wake of Poseidon by King Crimson from the 40th anniversary CD, DVD audio release. In the original booklet that came with In the Court of the Crimson King, there was an interview with Robert Fripp conducted by Sid Smith, who's in charge of writing these liner notes. And there is no such interview with Robert Fripp on this for this album. So this is simply a write-up by the liner notes author, again, Sid Smith. Recorded in the aftermath of King Crimson's implosion during their U.S. tour in 1969, In the Wake of Poseidon is the sound of an idea that simply refused to quit in the teeth of extreme adversity and apparently insurmountable odds. Understandably, the shock departure of half of the group had dented the confidence that had characterized Crimson's demeanor during which of the previous 12 months. Yet, in a remarkable display of personal and artistic determination, Poseidon meets the challenge of retaining and developing the fierce originality of ideas that helped fuel Crimson's debut album. Whilst Court had been truly a collective endeavor, it was undeniably molded to a large degree around Ian MacDonald's writing and musicality. With Fripp now in sole command of Crimson's musical direction, there's a move into harder-edged, less rock-oriented territories which would be expounded upon further in later Crimson records. Despite a superficial resemblance to Court, caused largely by a decision to sequence the tracks in a way which mirrors the dynamics of side one of Crimson's debut, Poseidon deserves to be judged on its own merits and not merely as an adjunct of its more famous predecessor. Without a working band, Fripp asked Greg Lake, then biding his time until the newly formed ELP, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, could start work, to stay on as guest vocalist whilst also recruiting drummer Michael Giles, along with his bass-playing brother Peter, to return as session musicians. This was a solution that was practical as it was pragmatic. Having lived and worked together as Giles, and Fripp during most of 1968, the core team responsible for laying down the tracks for the album had a proven track record for working quickly and efficiently. This ability meant that in a matter of weeks, most of the album's backing tracks were in place with a minimum of fuss. The pressure to maintain the commercial momentum of In the Court of the Crimson King produced a surprise single release, Cat Food, backed with Groon, issued in March 1970, was about as far removed from the debut album as it is possible to get. The anarchic mood of the song, occasionally by Keith Teppett's freewheeling piano and Greg's mid-song laughter caused by Fripp dropping his trousers whilst Lake was singing, made this one of the most unlikely single releases of the year. Despite these factors, not to mention Peter Seinfeld's satirical lyrics, Crimson's profile at the time was such that the band were asked to lip-sync a performance of the song for the BBC's primetime TV show, Top of the Pops. Perhaps, unsurprisingly, it failed to catch the ear of the mainstream pop pickers. Nevertheless, it signaled to critics and fans that Crimson was a going concern, and just as importantly, their ability to turn heads remained undiminished. The haunting melody of Peace, a Theme, whose music dates back to 1968, opening and closing the album, provides a delicate and simple frame into which all kinds of stunning musicianship, dramatic themes, and turbulent motifs jostle and compete for attention. Pictures of a City is brimming with numerous guitar overdubs, a tour de force of densely wrought picking. Here, Fripp gathers the implications of Schizoid Man's fast-running lines and constructs them into hurling force with his trademark dexterity and love of bone-crunching power chords brilliantly harnessed. The heavyweight nature of Pictures is enhanced still further by guest sax player Mel Collins' additional firepower. At the time of recording, Mel was still a member of Circus, a band which had shared the bill with Crimson and Keith Tippett's group as part of the Marquis's New Direction series of gigs the previous year. His work on this track, and in particular the sublime flute on Cadence and Cascade, ensured his recruitment to a newer incarnation of Crimson. One of the last songs to be completed in the sessions, Cadence and Cadence, like Pictures of a City, dated from 1969. Substantially revised in the Poseidon sessions, it quickly became one of Fripp and Seinfeld's most memorable collaborations. With Lake now off to ELP, he was unavailable for final recording, and his place on this track was taken by Fripp's old friend Gordon Haskell. Echoing both the somber aspect of Epitaph and the hymnal qualities of Court, In the Wake of Poseidon is nevertheless an outstanding track in its own right. Its magnificent mellotron-driven chorus, inspired acoustic guitar interventions, astonishing drumming throughout, and the fragile beauty of Libra's theme contained within is one of Fripp's most heartfelt melodies, every bit equal to the yearning romanticism found in Peacock's Tale, originally released on Lizard, the title track from Islands, and the main instrumental medley from Starless. When the album was released in May 1970, it was well received in the press, giving rise to the classic Melody Maker headline, "If Wagner were alive, he'd work with King Crimson." Thanks to an irresistible combination of anticipation sparked by the runaway success of the debut, along with an overwhelming curiosity to find out what Crimson would do next, Poseidon initially outperformed Court in the UK album charts, where it reached number 4. Poseidon was one of the Crimson albums Steve Wilson was especially looking forward to remixing for 5.1. However, he was disappointed to discover that the multi-tracks for the Devil's Triangle no longer existed. Quote, "Because it's a bit of a soup, being able to go in and bring out some clarity and detail might have really helped it. As with so much other Crimson stuff, it has got a sense of otherness that transcends so many of the other experimental pieces of the same era which haven't dated well. Harmonically, it's very bizarre, but it's also a kind of prototype of the kind of thing that they would try on Lizard in terms of its density and use of free jazz piano." So there's basically 12 minutes in the second half of the record where we're having to rely upon the original stereo master. I think we have to count our blessings that we've been able to do what we've done so far, because to go back and hope to find and work with tapes that are 40 years old is a tall order, unquote. Written by Sid Smith, June 2010. And that's it, guys. Not much else to it, so see you for the next one.